Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer may be experiencing his first bit of adversity in Tuscaloosa as his offensive coordinator may be on the move. Ladies and gents, boys and girls, I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Be sure you hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon so you get notifications of when we go live, when we drop new video content as well, which is every single day. Also, check us out wherever you get your podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get podcasts, you can find us there. And of course, guys, on social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, SEC Unfiltered is there. Yes, Alabama may be back on the search for an offensive coordinator as late yesterday, Ryan Grubb emerged as one of the top candidates for the offensive coordinator job in Seattle as the Seattle Seahawks look to fill their OC void. This coming via Pro Football Scoop at NBC Sports. The title of the headline, Ryan Grubb could make quick exit from Alabama for the Seahawks. The article reads, last month, Washington OC Ryan Grubb made the move to Tuscaloosa with former Huskies head coach Kalen DeBoer. Grubb might already be going back to the Pacific Northwest. Per a league source, Grubb could be joining new coach Mike McDonald as offensive coordinator of the Seahawks. While it's not finalized, Grubb is definitely under consideration for the job. Grubb has no NFL coaching experience. He previously worked at Fresno State, Eastern Michigan, Sioux Falls, and South Dakota State. The article goes on and says it would be unusual for Grubb to leave Alabama after such a short time there, but it gives him a way to get back to Washington just a few weeks after he left. First off, Alabama fans are going to lose their minds if this takes place, right? Like, you think about all of the, everything is just so unsettled right now. Everything's been unsettling the last month or so for Alabama. The loss to Michigan happens. Then a week later, Nick Saban retires. Then the Kalen DeBoer hiring, the uncertainty with that, of course. Kalen DeBoer, not an SEC guy. He brings his OC, Ryan Grubb, with him. Now Alabama could be back on the search for an offensive coordinator. And guys, I've talked about this a good bit, but with every single one of these moves, a college coach going to the NFL, or you wonder, does the current landscape of college football, does it have anything to do with it? With transfer portal, with an IL? Maybe these guys look at the landscape and say, you know what? If players are going to get paid and there's going to be negotiations and my own roster is going to hold me hostage to pay them more, they're going to transfer elsewhere. Well, I just want to coach ball. So I'll go somewhere where I can do that. I'll go somewhere where I can simply coach football in the NFL. And there's a front office to handle all of these payments, all of these deals, all of these contracts, all of these negotiations. I don't have to worry about that headache, and I can just go coach football. Now, I will say this, guys. In this instance, I will be somewhat surprised if this does happen, because while it is a great opportunity, and you think about a guy, Ryan Grubb, who knows, maybe he didn't want to leave Washington. Maybe he didn't want to leave the Pacific Northwest, right? Gives him an opportunity to stay in that area. I'm sure he has family. I'm sure his kids are in school there, right? That stuff matters. These are human beings, right? So maybe he jumps at the opportunity, but it would somewhat surprise me just because of the tight connection he and Kalen DeBoer have. I mean, he's been with him virtually every single step of the way, right? Sioux Falls, Fresno State. I mean, you think about it, these dudes go way, way back. And I think we also have to ask the question, what's a better job? Being the Alabama OC or being the OC of the Seattle Seahawks. Let's just play the hypothetical game, though, because where there's smoke, there's fire. This very well could happen, right? Again, per a league source, Grubb is definitely under consideration. So this could happen. If it does Kalen DeBoer dare ring the line of Tommy Rees and get him back in Tuscaloosa? And if not, which direction do they go? And I tell you guys, I just can't help but think, right? I mean, there's already so much turnover. There's already so much change. There's already so much uncertainty. And you're telling me a month before spring ball, Kalen DeBoer's got to hit the ground running yet again and go get another offensive coordinator? And Georgia fans are just sitting back laughing. They just love they're loving every second of it, man. They're loving every second of it. The empire's crumbling. LSU fans, same way, right? Heck, there's many in the SEC, I think, that are just, with every little thing that happens that goes against Alabama, it's to their satisfaction. But it's going to be interesting to see what Grubb does here. Again, no NFL experience. So, he doesn't have those ties that some others may have. And I think that relationship with Kalen DeBoer, I think most likely keeps him in Tuscaloosa. But this was certainly a headline that caught my attention. This was a headline that you looked at and said, this would make things very interesting. And what direction would Kalen DeBoer go? What direction? Is there anybody out there that Kalen DeBoer could go get that is going to be as big a name and is going to have the resume that Ryan Grubb has attached to that name? I think the one name, guys, if this does happen, I think the name that comes top of mind, and I think would be a hot name, would be on the top of the board, is Kirby Moore over at Missouri. You look at what he's done. You look at his previous stops as well. Kirby Moore has a track record of success on the offensive side of the football. And, guys, what he did at Mizzou last year, I mean, it speaks for itself, right? Taking Brady Cook, getting the most out of him, right? Turning Brady Cook into one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. This is a guy that Mizzou fans wanted benched, right? And I think this was a guy that I know for a fact we didn't look upon very highly when it comes to SEC quarterbacks. Turned Luther Burden into arguably the best playmaker at the wide receiver position entering 2024. Cody Schrader, All-American. What Kirby Moore did, wildly, wildly impressive. So I think that's a name that could be at the top of the list. I think that's a name that very well could fit for Alabama. But I think this is something, guys, here's the thing. I don't think, coaching staff turnover is not a new thing in Tuscaloosa, right? Like Nick Saban's staff, there was turnover every year, it seemed like. Every year, there were a pair of new coordinators. And it never mattered. Here's what Bama fans have to get used to, though. There's no, with those coordinator turnover, it was always, we got Nick Saban. It's all going to be fine. We got Nick Saban. He's the GOAT. He's a legend. It's his systems. It's his schemes. It's his terminology. We'll be fine no matter who is in those roles. I don't know that that's necessarily the case anymore. I'm not saying Kalen DeBoer is not going to be a really good coach. But for most coaches, 99% of them, you need to surround yourself with an elite staff. You're only as good as the people around you. And so to insinuate that Ryan Grubb leaving before he even gets started would not be a big loss would just be an incorrect take, guys. You can't sit there and say it would not be a big loss when Ryan Grubb came with Kalen DeBoer. It was looked at as, what a great hire. Ryan Grubb, one of the top offensive minds in college football. What a great pickup this is. Can't have it both ways. So it'd be a major loss. And if it does happen, and it may not, again, I think the relationship that DeBoer and Grubb have may win out here. And I mean, let's call it for what it is. Ryan Grubb's making a pretty damn good living at Alabama. But you know what? Maybe. And I don't know that at Washington, you've got to deal with the portal and the NIL stuff. And guys, how about the pressures? How about the pressures at Alabama? I mean, these are human beings. That's something that I'm sure Ryan Grubb has thought about. That's something I'm sure Ryan Grubb has sat down and like, man, excited for the job, excited for the opportunity, pressure cooker. The guy following the guy. Or I can go to the NFL, make a really nice living, work with professionals, be in the Pacific Northwest, get a very nice payday, and just coach ball. College coaching is built for the hustlers now. It is. It's built for the hustlers. And I'm not saying Ryan Grubb's not a hustler, but the point I'm making is we just don't know. I don't know Ryan Grubb like that. You don't know him like that. Does Ryan Grubb want to hustle like that? Or does he just want to coach ball? And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I think most of you out there would agree. I'd do the same. I'd just go coach ball. I'd go to the NFL. So maybe the relationship wins out. Grubb has been with DeBoer practically at every stop he's been. They've had great success together. There's a reason Grubb took this job in the first place, following his man, Kalen DeBoer. Sometimes you got to stop. You got to make decisions for yourself. I'll be really, really curious to see what Ryan Grubb does here. And if it does happen, what direction Alabama goes. Is it Kirby Moore? Is it Tommy Rees? Would they dare bring Tommy Rees back to Tuscaloosa? I mean, I think there's a lot of worse directions you could go. I don't know if Bama fans really want to hear that, but I think there's a lot of worse directions you could go, guys. You got the familiarity there with Jalen Milroe, and, I mean, you could do much worse, I think. You could do much worse. Do you call it Joe Moorhead, who's over at Akron as the head coach? How much pull does Alabama still have without Nick Saban? Could you just go out there and get anybody? Or are you going to have to roll the dice a little bit? Are you going to have to go with a little bit lesser known name? Going to be very, very interesting. Change is the word of 2024 thus far for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and more change may be on the way as Ryan Grubb entertains the idea of a leap to the NFL. Guys, that's going to do it. Appreciate you all tuning in. Again, I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Be sure you hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon so you get notifications of when we go live, when we drop new video content as well. Also, guys, check out the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, guys. You can find us there. And, of course, guys, on social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you get your content, SEC Unfiltered is there. And, again, guys, we drop content daily on YouTube, on podcast, on social media, all across the board. Guys, until next time, appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you again soon.